Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fade Route NFL podcast. This one for week 9. We have some teams on buys. We're going to talk about Thursday night football, the 1 p.m. window, 4 p.m. window, Sunday night football, Monday night football, give out some croutons, sink or swim, the game we started last week, 3 for the money, give a random fact. But before I do anything else, I'm going to welcome in the mayor.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Injury report this week: the mayor's a little under the weather. He's gonna play through the illness. Try to get through this podcast this week. Forgive me. Anyways, happy Halloween to those out there that celebrate. It is actually my 10th wedding anniversary on Halloween. My lovely wife is my better half. It's been a great 10. And if my calculations are correct, this is our 155th podcast. I'm not sure if that's right or not. I was doing some fuzzy math to try to come up with those statistics. A great week 9. I've got another power rankings for you this week. We'll cover that a little later. And I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I couldn't even begin to estimate how many shows. I mean, if people want to listen to earlier shows from earlier seasons, we are still on Spotify as the Sift podcast. But now we're on YouTube as the Fade Route podcast. One of us is Fade, one of us is Route. So you got to guess which one. I'll leave that up to you. All right. The buys are Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, and the New York Jets. Thursday night football kicks us off tonight with Baltimore -7.5. Why am I skipping the random fact? Why did I do that? All right, random fact. It's about hippos. I don't know if we've done this one before. Kind of sounds familiar. Did we do a random fact about hippos?
That's a good question. Let's just go with it anyways.
All right. The hippo's jaw opens wide enough to fit a car inside.
I don't remember hearing that before.
Those are terrifying animals, by the way.
Yeah, they kill more people a year than sharks, I think.
Yep. And the funny thing is, we all grew up with this idea of like they're soft, cuddly things, and Hungry Hippo is a fun game and all that. But a hippo in real life, terrifying.
Well, fortunately for you and I, there are no hippopotamuses that run free in Florida, but we do have every other walk of life that is looking to kill us, including snowbirds.
We do. We have our own share of terrifying things. All right, back to the football. Thursday night football. Baltimore is a 7.5-point favorite in Miami. The over/under is 50.5. This is just the first of many home dogs this week. Baltimore gets Lamar back. Miami looked good last week, but I think Vegas knows the Baltimore Ravens are going to cruise the rest of the way. I don't expect this to be a great game for Miami. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't see this being a big game for Miami. I have been trying to rally the troops to maybe even go to this game tonight. It's about a 3.5 hour drive down to Miami. 2 weeks ago, when Miami got blown out, ticket prices were as cheap as $40, and then they went and had to win last week, and those same tickets went up by $30. Those verified resales that the NFL covets so nicely and makes extra money, even though it's a thing. I won't be going to the game more likely than not, but we'll keep you tuned on that. I was watching Good Morning Football this morning, like many other people do, and they had an out of character for Kyle Brandt, but it was on script and it's the NFL Network, so I know it probably has to be NFL approved. They were basically ripping Amazon for the promo picture that they were using for the game, jerseyless and helmetless Devon Etienne for the cover for the Miami Dolphins, and he said, "We don't even know who this is. We had to look it up." It's surprising that the NFL would rip Amazon like that for a promo. Maybe they're trying to, maybe that's a passive aggressive behavior on their part instead of them handling it privately. I don't know. Going to be a fun game to watch either way. Lamar's going to light up the scoreboard. If Tua cannot turn the ball over, Miami may have a chance, but I don't see that happening.
Just back to Kyle Brandt for a second. I wouldn't put it past him to have just thrown that in there and then wasn't maybe approved by the NFL, but because I could definitely see him doing that as a joke, but you may be right. It maybe reached all the way to Roger Goodell before it made it out of his mouth. Okay, so do you like either side of Baltimore or Miami?
Baltimore's defense needs to keep them in games. They haven't done their part this season so far. The offense has been terrible without Lamar, but that's the way they've built this team. So that's really on the GM and the head coach to not have a backup plan to not having your star. I think if Miami can play mistake-free football and control the ball like they have done in the past, they will have a chance, but it's going to really depend on Tua. I'm putting these losses more on him at the moment than Mike. We've had quite a few conversations about Mike not being a great coach, but when your quarterback has 3 or 4 turnovers in 2 or 3 games in a season, you can't. That's just unacceptable. But they don't have anyone to put in place of him. That's on the GM.
Yeah, and you can't trust this Miami team if you're going to try to put money on them. So it's a stay away. The 1 p.m. slate starts with San Francisco -2.5 at the New York Giants. The over/under is 48.5. This is another home dog. How are you feeling about San Francisco these days?
Yeah, well, last week they played Houston, didn't get the victory, of course. They're not doing well against great defensive teams, but they're still kind of playing second. They're playing their second string people on offense. They're starting to get back a few pieces, but Brock Purdy is going to be the key to that offense. They've still got a soft schedule, relatively speaking, for who's on ahead of them. They do have a couple teams, Indy, that are the surprises of the season. If they can get to 10, if they can win 5 or 6 more games out of the 8 or 9 they have left, I think they should be able to sneak in a wild card spot with Seattle and the Rams. Having a better record at the moment, it's going to be tough for them. I see them getting this win in New York without Scadaboo. The Giants are going to look very different, and they're going to be a different football team. And this is Brian Dable coaching for his job at this point.
Yeah, he is. Just to mention one thing really quickly, this is audio only, so you can't see the mayor is wearing a 49ers shirt. You also can't see that Pikachu stuffed animals right behind you. But those are things. So if you want to imagine what's going on here, you can do that. Minnesota is at Detroit. Detroit favored by 8.5. 47.5 is the over under. Minnesota lost their quarterback. I don't know who's starting. Do you have any definitive word on who's starting? Carson Wentz is out. JJ McCarthy was hurt, and I don't. They have another quarterback, but I don't think anybody knows anything about him. I don't know if they're going to start JJ McCarthy on a bad ankle or what, but either way, it doesn't look good for them in Detroit.
It says J.J. McCarthy may play. I don't.
Mhm.
I don't really understand that too much. This feels like it's slipping away from Minnesota pretty quickly. Detroit is still on a hot streak. They're still playing solid football, scoring a ton of points every game. Their defense comes to play and ready to go. I don't see Minnesota getting this victory, regardless of who their quarterback is. Carson Wentz was a band aid that did okay, but at this point, they're sub 500, and Detroit is going to throttle in the Motor City and, get one game ahead, and it's going to, really put Minnesota on the outs.
Yeah, I know you really hate big lines. Do you like the 8.5 though?
Yeah, that's a pretty good line. I would, if I had to bet, I would bet Detroit -1/2 at this point because that seems more likely than not. And that 48.5, Detroit could probably score 35 or 36 on their own. So that it makes a lot of sense.
Would Minnesota score at all would be the only question. Denver is at Houston. Houston is favored at home. 1.5 points. That's the last time I saw it. 39.5 is the over under. Denver without Patrick Surtain. So they are a completely different defense when that happens. Houston looks like they're revving up. The offense is working now. I'm not touching this game in terms of the spread, but I might have this for something else later. Do you like either side of this, or what are your thoughts on Denver at Houston?
Well, Houston's, excuse me, Houston's getting to that point in no return as well at 3-4. They're going to have to start stacking wins to get back in the a legitimate chance at the playoff race. Passing and offensively, defensively, they're middle of the road. Overall in defense, they're giving up the least amount of yards a game. So that's what's keeping them in football games. That offense is starting to tick. But Denver has gotten to 6-2. They have done it in many different ways, rushing the ball 137 yards a game. That is very impressive for them. And they are getting it done with points. 10th in the league in points right now. Going to be a great game. I think Denver's going to steal one in Houston, and that 1.5 sounds like a few free points if you're betting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We will talk more about that game perhaps a little later. Carolina at Green Bay. Green Bay, huge favorite at home, minus 12.5. The over-under is 44.5. I am not sure about who's playing quarterback again with this game. Uh, there was word that Bryce Young might be ready to go again. Andy Dalton was an absolute disaster last week. There's not a lot to say about this. I mean, that's too big of a line, 12.5, but it might be right.
Yeah, I mean, the betting favorite is taking Green Bay 70% minus 13.5. And of course, they're taking the money line by an overwhelming amount. All the money's on Green Bay, so that means something's going to happen. Someone's hands are going to get greased, and a referee's going to make a bad call at the wrong time. But unfortunately, Carolina will probably only score about 7 points. So unless Green Bay doesn't score anything, which not going to happen, Green Bay is going to roll, and they are going to be 6-1-1 on the season. They are looking like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, one of the best teams in the NFC for sure. They are going to be hard to contend with getting that first round bye for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the best two teams through 8 weeks have been Indy and Green Bay. I don't think it's really even an argument one way or the other. It looks like those two teams are the odds on favorite to get at least to their championship games in their conferences. But again, the line is too big. Indianapolis is a 3-point favorite in Pittsburgh. The over-under is 50. It is another home dog, Pittsburgh, coming off a pretty convincing loss to Green Bay. So I don't know. Is this Pittsburgh team, like defensively, they're terrible, and Indianapolis has been, just rolling over people. So I don't know if there's any correct analysis of this, but it seems easy to think that Indianapolis is going to win this game. Do you have any thoughts on it?
In Indiana Jones, from New
Mhm.
York to Indianapolis, and how the Giants botched Daniel Jones, I won't understand at this point. Only 3 interceptions on the season. That's a big reason why they're 7-1. Jonathan Taylor should be the MVP so far this season, but we know that's never going to happen as a running back. He is just an absolute terror on the field. 850 yards so far this season with 12 touchdowns. Indy's first in scoring and sixth in rushing, first overall in offensive yards. So this team is doing everything correct. It's going to take mistakes galore for them to lose to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is their typical 500 selves, 4-3 on the season, as close as you can be to 500 without being 500. Mike Tomlin somehow gets a win, gets a loss, gets a win, gets a loss, gets a win, gets a loss. Indy's going to roll that -3. I'm just now looking at that kind of right now and maybe rethinking some of my crouton picks.
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious. I don't have it in my croutons at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. By the way, if you can hear that door opening in the background, that is my cat trying to get in this room
Okay.
because he thinks he owns the place and he opens doors all the time, but
Well, he's
he hasn't
excited
been
to hear
able
what
to
you say about the
yet.
line.
All right, Mayor, can you filibuster for just a minute because I'm gonna do a couple things.
Absolutely. So, I'm gonna do a little bit of a side tangent. I was talking about Indy. Doing their thing. Indiana Jones from New York Giants, took over. And Sam Darnold also, went out to Seattle and was able to produce big wins. These teams that are absolutely doing great things with quarterbacks that have just been thrown away in the New Jersey football market is unbelievable. These coaches don't know what they're doing if they're getting rid of someone like Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones, who turns out to be very quality caliber NFL quarterbacks. These GMs got fired because their coaches were inept at drafting such terrible players that turned out to be really good. It is unbelievable how many players have slipped through the cracks over the seasons and gone to different teams that had great success.
The Giants have also had really bad injury luck, so I mean that this year. But yeah, they definitely whiffed on Daniel Jones, and obviously because he got into a good offensive system and he looks a lot better. Chicago is -2.5, and they're at Cincinnati. The over/under is 52. I did see that Joe Flacco may be out for this game, so if that happens, sorry, if that happens, I don't know what to do with the line. And I don't know if the line's going to move. I can kind of look at it right now and see if there's been an update. The over/under's gone to 51, down to 51, but it's still at 2.5, is what I'm seeing. So uh, I looked up the Flacco situation earlier in the week, and it seemed maybe murky, but I don't know if there's been something definitive since then.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything definitive. Joe Flacco at 41 seems to be able to get it done time and time again when he's put in the game. The Bengals are probably in trouble on this game. Not being favored at home is a big deal. Caleb Williams is starting to come into his own as an NFL quarterback. Had a shaky first season, but sometimes that's going to happen with your rookies. He's only thrown 4 interceptions on the season, so that's everything you want out of a starting quarterback. Minimal mistakes there. Chicago's probably going to win this game. They're still in that playoff. They're still in the playoff hunt at 4-3. So getting a victory here will keep them on the tails of Green Bay and Detroit. And they're going to need every win they can get, and they need to beat these teams that are clearly not as good as they are currently. Look for Chicago to win this one.
Yeah, the Flacco situation's concerning too. Atlanta at New England. New England favored by 5 at home. One of my golden rules is never bet on Atlanta. I'm gonna stick to that or against them. The over/under is 45. I mean, it seems obvious that New England's gonna win this game, but 5 points is Vegas zone, and that is not something to touch.
Yeah, because they could win by 7, they could win by 3. I'm with you. New England is, performing pretty well so far at 6-2. Atlanta is still a few pieces away. Tampa seems like they're just running away with that division at this point. Carolina's on their heels, but being 3-4, they're in that same boat as Minnesota is, same boat as Cincinnati. All these teams are starting to be where, okay, we need to win this one. Okay, we need to win this one. Okay, we need to win this one. I'm not saying they're hitting the panic switch yet, but they may start entertaining, checking out some of their rookie talents, starting to prepare for the future. New England's going to win this game, though. I just don't know by how much.
Agreed. The Chargers also huge favorites at Tennessee. I saw -9.5. The over/under is 43.5. This is our fifth home dog of the week so far, but every one of these home dogs I think deserves it, especially Tennessee. One of my worst preseason picks ever was to say Tennessee's going to win this division. Pretty much everybody else could win the division, including teams that aren't even in the division over Tennessee. Do you have any thoughts on the Chargers -9.5 at Tennessee?
Yeah, we broke up a little bit there. I'm not sure what's going to come through on audio, what's not. Uh, you picked Tennessee preseason to win the division. I picked Houston. It turns out we were both wrong. Um, India's the clear favorite in the division. Tennessee, I don't think has a chance of winning this game, and I'm not sure completely, but I think if they lose this game, they're going to be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They've got like a 1% chance of making the playoffs right now, according to CBS.com. And I'm sure there's a lot of analytics mixed into that with this team's playing that team, something I can't compute in my brain. But I would say Tennessee is going to be out after this week. The Chargers are going to win this game, but in Chargers fashion, they could go in by one. I'm sick of getting sucked in by Los Angeles Chargers. I will not bet on them. I will not bet on them, but they will win.
Uh, I may have to start over here with my picks. Can you hear me at all?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good. It is saying like the internet connection is bad. If it does go bad, I can.
Yeah, your whole part of when you were talking about Tennessee and LA, I was breaking up the whole time.
I just said that my preseason pick was terrible. That's my worst call ever. But it wasn't supposed to be. Was supposed to be a hot take, and it definitely was. But it was very wrong. And there's no reason why the Chargers don't easily win this game. The 4 p.m. window starts with New Orleans at Carolina. Uh, really fun game if you're a fan of the NFC South. And I'm sorry, not Carolina. New Orleans at the LA Rams. Rams favored by 13 and a half. The over-under is 44 and a half. I think New Orleans has a slight advantage when they're at home, but they're one of those teams that goes on the road and falls flat.
Yeah, the Los Angeles Rams don't have a lot of home fans, but I don't know how many New Orleans fans are out west. Most of them are down here in the deep south. Right now New Orleans is 0 and 3. I'm sorry, they're 1 and 5 in the conference. They're 0 and 2 in the non-conference. So they're not doing very good. They're 1 and 7. I think this is an elimination game for them as well. 13 and a half or 14, however you're looking at it, is way too many points to be betting on. But that over a 43 and a half, I could see the Rams lighting up the scoreboard and putting on a show for whoever may be at the game. Rams are going to win big.
Yeah, it's a big line, but it's a big line for a reason. Um, all right, Jacksonville is a favorite in Las Vegas. Jacksonville's favored by 3. The over/under is 45. This is our fifth home dog of the week, or sixth home dog of the week. The Raiders are pretty terrible, but they have talent. Brock Bowers coming back this week. I am not going to put anything on Jacksonville at all. That seems like a bad idea. So I'm not touching it from that angle, but it could be a close game. What do you think?
Maybe. I think it'll be close game only because Jacksonville it hasn't been great offensively. They're kind of middle of the road on everything average wise across the NFL. 14th, 15th place in points and scores and rushing yards. But like you said, the Raiders are not great. They don't really have a home field environment either, so that's not going to really affect the game in any way. I think +3 is probably about the right line. Jacksonville will find a way to get this win, stay ahead and stay competitive in the AFC playoff race. Every little game is going to matter now, and the Raiders are going to be very behind and even a chance at anything with another loss.
Yeah, even though I think it's going to be a close game, I'm not really too interested in it. KC is 1.5 point favorite in Buffalo. The over under is 52. So Buffalo disrespected at home. KC obviously looking better. Rashee Rice is back, and seems to have changed a lot of things for them. Obviously, this is the game of the week. Everybody's going to want to watch this game in the 4 p.m. window. Do you want to watch this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it just because I'm a fan. I mean, this is, kind of like when the Colts and the Patriots were always playing, 10 years ago or a decade and a half ago. This is that game every year that's going to happen every year, no matter what, because these teams are, it's like Batman and Joker. They're destined to play each other, destined to go against each other. I think the Bills have the advantage in the regular season over Kansas City. And games in October or November don't really make a difference. It's that game in January that really makes a difference. But this could determine where that game is played. I don't understand why Buffalo's getting points. If anything, it should be a pick 'em. But those 2 points that Buffalo might be getting looks pretty attractive to me.
I haven't seen a pick'em this year. I don't know, remember the last time that Vegas gave us a pick'em. I don't know if those even exist anymore. So, but yeah, you're right. Anybody that thinks they know what's going to happen in this game, I don't think is correct, or they have such good inside information they should be banned from gambling. The Sunday night football game is Seattle minus 3.5. They're at Washington, another home dog. I believe Washington still without Jaden Daniels, or again without him. The over/under is 46. I want to watch this game actually. I think Seattle's looking pretty good, and I think Washington's up and down. Marcus Mariota's not great, but I think Washington can be an entertaining team at the very least. So it's not a bad Sunday night football game.
Yeah, gonna be fun to watch. I want to see Washington win this game. They're going to have to put it all together, both sides of the ball, to get that done. Seattle has done pretty well so far this season, being 5-2. Like I was when I was filibustering talking about Sam Darnold, he's a big reason why this team has done as well as they have. They kind of went away from Geno Smith, and of course now far away from Russell Wilson. Darnold's only thrown 4 interceptions in 7 games. Smith and Jigba has been a big part of that, and Kenneth Walker has done his part. This offense is solid, and they are 5-2 for a reason. Giving up 3 points going out east, playing on Sunday night. I don't know how well that's going to do. I think Seattle has been 5-0 on the road this year, so they're looking to maybe get their sixth road victory. But go Washington. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, they're
so for
3-0 on
me,
the road this year.
actually feel like maybe more like a 4 p.m. game. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
flex
mean,
schedule
and
starts at 12, right? But there's no real game to flex into this position at this point.
right, yeah. But I think it's going to be entertaining enough. Monday Night Football, Arizona at Dallas. Uh, Arizona just doesn't inspire anything, but Jacoby Brissett has kept them in games, moved the offense pretty well. So that's why the line is at 54. Dallas is favored by 2.5 at home, and the over under is 54.
Yeah, Dallas is probably going to get this win. Arizona is not a great football team. Dallas isn't either. Their defense is horrendous, the worst in the league for scoring, but they have the second best scoring offense in the league. And, I don't think, Dallas is going to be able to score 40 in this game, and I don't think Arizona is going to be able to do that, even with that soft defense that Dallas has. So Dallas is going to win.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on Arizona either. That's another one of my teams that's a stay away. All right, but a lot of points expected. That's what people like to see. So maybe they'll get that show. We are talking about croutons. We got wiped out in everything last week. So I don't know if we have a lot to talk about in terms of last week. I picked the Dallas at Denver under. Well, I originally had over, and then I switched it, and that was dumb on my part. But I did not win the 50 croutons there, and then I had Pittsburgh +3 against Green Bay. Obviously, did not get that one either, so lost 100 croutons.
Yeah, I went 0 for everything last week. I kind of told you that over the phone. I am in a free fantasy football league. I even lost to a guy that hasn't changed his lineup in 6 weeks. It is truly embarrassing when that happens because I've been plugging and playing different players, and this guy, meanwhile, auto drafted 8 weeks ago, made one move, and has been winning games ever since. I am currently in sixth place in that league, and he is in fourth. Yahoo Public League. I'm not even going to make the playoffs in. It's truly terrible. And my double quarterback money league, I am 1-8 or 1-7. It has been atrocious. If you looked at my roster minus my quarterbacks, you're like, wow, I should be 8-0. I'm not. I'm 1-7. Let's move on to week 9. I've got 2 bets this week.
Yeah, so go ahead with your first one.
So for my first bet, I talked about it a little bit already. Buffalo, they're getting 2 points at home against Kansas City. I think Buffalo's going to win the game, so I'm going to pick Buffalo for the win. Plus 250 croutons.
All right, bold, I think, but that will be a game everybody's watching, so why not get in some action there? Denver's at Houston. The over under is it was 50. I don't know if it's moved a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, Patrick Surtain is out. The Houston offense is rolling, I think. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's 40. Sorry. Totally different. It is 39 or 40. I had it at 39 earlier this week. So I'm going over. The Denver defense is bad with Surtain out, and the Houston offense has come alive. So I think Denver, we saw them score 33 in the fourth. So I think they can put up points. So I'm going over the 40 for 50 croutons.
Yeah, I saw that and almost took that one myself. But then I thought, I was like, maybe the defenses do show up to play and it ends up being like 7-3. Good luck to you on that bet. My second bet is I just talked about Monday Night Football. Dallas is probably going to roll Arizona. They're not going to be able to score 40 points. Dallas is going to score 40. And Dallas is only giving up 2.5 points, so I'll take that. I'll take that for 50 croutons.
Yeah, I have action this on that game as well. I'm gonna take Dallas minus 2.5 at home versus Arizona. Might have turned into a shootout, but I just think Dallas is gonna pull out the win at home by 3 points. So at least. So so I'm taking Dallas minus 2.5 for 50 croutons.
Yeah, that's where we're at there. We're both in agreement on a bet. Usually, when that happens, that's money for gold. So, any sifters listening along, bet the farm Dallas minus 2.5.
Responsibly bet the farm, a small farm, not the big farm you own. Okay, sink or swim. I picked Indy last week. I've moved on to the playoff type teams in the last 3 weeks. So now I have Green Bay this week in week 9. Green Bay is at home against this Carolina team who nobody knows who the quarterback's going to be. They're favored by 12.5. I figure this is the surest one of the week. So Green Bay is my sink or swim pick.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I should have listened to you as you were rambling last week, and you said the one time you tried to count on Washington that they failed you. Well, they failed me last week. So now I'm behind. I think you're ahead in sink or swim. I'm going with a presumable playoff team this week. Los Angeles Rams at home. If they're going to get the win against the Saints. This one seems easy money to me. Bet the money line, bet the big farm. Don't worry about the little farm. That's just there for backup.
Yeah, New Orleans is going to be in trouble in that game. All right, speaking of games, we have 3 for the money. Last week we both lost, but Samir took bigger odds, so he gets to pick the window, and I believe he picked the PM window, which only has 5 games. So, Mayor, I'm going to make sure I confirm that's correct, and then I'd like to hear what you got.
Well, yeah, but 4 o'clock comes after 1 o'clock, so I'm gonna have to insist that you name your picks first.
Okay, that's fair. I'm picking Chicago, Indianapolis, and Houston. Again, not a huge number, but I think those teams are going to end up winning. So I've got $1 on Chicago, Indy, Houston parlay, and it is plus 359.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Chicago, Indy,
And Houston.
Houston. Oh wow, Houston. So you're going into the grab bag with Houston against
Yeah.
Denver.
Yes.
Okay, that's. I would advise against that if anyone is listening along. That's up to you guys if you want to take his 3 for the money. The cockiness in me wanted to pick the teams with less. I think I found a good parlay. Buffalo, Jacksonville, and Dallas are going to get me plus 462. I must be the only one that believes that Buffalo is going to win this game, so it kind of shot those odds up a little bit. But that is my three-team parlay.
And what is the number on that?
Plus 462.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, win or lose, if we both lose or we both win, you will get to pick your window next week. Thoughts on how this game has gone so far? And we only had 1 week, but what do you think?
So far, so good. I like the concept. I think we may have to work through a little bit with the when there's a very large amount of 1 o'clock games and not so many after 4 o'clock, especially when it comes to like Thanksgiving week. I think there's always two, three games on Thanksgiving, few 1 o'clock games, so the 4 o'clocks and the late window is going to be even small. So I don't know. We'll work through it and see how it goes.
All right, let's hear your power rankings for week 9.
So I don't actually have power rankings for week 9. This is a little bit of a old school SIP surprise. I
Okay.
have the worst power rankings for the week. I'm going to tell you the bottom four teams, and these teams I think are one loss away from getting knocked out of the playoffs. These are in no particular order. These teams are equally terrible. But however, we'll name both teams from New Jersey, the Giants and the Jets. The Jets have scored 168 points a game, given up 221 points a game. The Giants have given up 215 points a game with an offense even worse. And then New Orleans and Tennessee. Tennessee has scored the least amount of points in the league at 110, given up 230 points. So I guess they are technically the worst of the worst. But the amazing thing about all four of these teams is the Dallas Cowboys have given up more points than all of these teams.
Yeah, that tells you how exciting of a game that's going to be against Arizona. Their defense is bad, and it's not getting any better. But you're right, Dallas is still in the mix while those other teams are long gone cross-offs for me.
Yeah, they are definitely scratched for the season,
All
much
right,
like that.
that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we're ready to enjoy week 9 and all the festivities that may inspire.
Well, so happy anniversary. I can't believe it's 10 years. It seems like less than that, but congratulations on that and have a good time. For
Yeah,
the
thank you.
mayor and myself, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.